All right, we are live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to EdTech Mixed Plate. This is episode 29, and this is our fourth episode this month in support of Connected Educator Month, and we're going to be talking about blended learning tonight. Before we get started, we'll go through some introductions, and I have some things to share, and then we'll get started on our discussion with blended learning. So I'll start the introductions. My name is Mike Fricano, and I'm a Technology Integration Specialist for Iolani School. Rachel, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel Armstrong. I'm a Tech Coordinator at Halikula Elementary. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Rachel. Megan?
Hi, I'm Megan Cummings, Tech Coordinator at Halikula Elementary.
Thank you. Awesome. And I'm outnumbered by Halikula tonight. And we have a special guest who is a blended learning teacher, and she's going to participate in our conversation tonight. We have Linnell with us. Can you introduce yourself, Linnell?
Hi, I'm Lynn Basug, instructional coach for grades 3 to 5, and of course at Halikula.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate you taking out some time out of your busy weekend, I'm sure. Yeah, we're going to talk about blended learning tonight. It's one of the 7 themes of Connected Educator Month, and we figured it'd be a nice conversation piece to talk about when we talk about being a connected educator and what blended learning is and how it works and why it's important in the classroom. Before we get into that, let me share some things with our audience tonight. So first of all, if you're joining us live or if you're watching the recording later on, tonight's show notes you can find at this link here. It's bit.ly/mixedplate29. So feel free to open up a new tab while you watch, and you can check out our show notes. There's a handful of resources in there, and if we come across any other resources during our discussion tonight, we'll definitely add those to the show notes document. And for our audience out there, feel free to participate in the building of resources. We do invite our audience to add comments and suggestions to the document. If you have anything that you would like to share out there, we would definitely like your input on our show notes. So check that out at bit.ly/mixedplate29. And of course, check out our website, bit.ly/edtechmixedplate. We archive all of our episodes and show notes on our website. We have a calendar for future episodes, and we have a handy little form that we'd like our audience to fill out. If you want to join our mailing list, or if you have any dying questions that you'd like to ask us about anything EdTech, we can talk about in a future episode. So feel free to fill out that form for us. So bit.ly/edtechmixedplate. Check out that website. I'm going to keep it on the show notes for a little while. We do have quite an audience already. We have 5 viewers, and I see someone I know on Google Plus is already joining us. His name is Jed from Santa Clara, California. They're a couple hours ahead of us. I see someone else from Halikula is with us as well, the principal, Jan. Thanks for joining us, Jan. And of course, Peggy is always with us. Peggy's from Phoenix, Arizona. It's probably about 11 o'clock p.m. for her. So thanks for joining us live, everybody. Feel free to ask your questions tonight in the Q&A. And if you have anything you'd like to share in the discussion, feel free to chime in on the Q&A as well. We'll check it as often as we can and pause for questions if we can. Okay. All right, so let's get started with our discussion. So we have a series of questions in our show notes, and the first question at the top of the list is, what is blended learning? So I'm going to hand it over to our blended learning experts over here. So if someone wants to start the conversation and talk about what blended learning is, and I guess what it means for you as an educator. Who wants to start? Anyone?
Okay, don't everyone speak at once. Okay, well, before becoming the tech coordinator at Halikula, 2 years before that, I'd been doing a 5th grade blended learning class. I think blended learning to me is really just incorporating technology into instruction, and I think there's multiple ways to do that, and I think that all schools are at different levels of that. all teachers are at different levels of that, and comfort-wise, and there's different models of it. And when we first started our blended learning program at Halikula, we were really looking at how can we get kids creating with technology, collaborating and communicating and thinking critically, that kind of thing. So we started with actually we did a hybrid model, and I think prior to this, Michelle and Megan, had obviously been working hard and had been incorporating technology. And I think we, because of lack of space, our principal, Jani Wase, did a grant, and we started a blended learning program where the kids came to school 2.5 days a week and then stayed at home and learned 2.5 days a week and created things from home. So I think blended learning can follow all different types of models. That's one of the models we've done at our school was a hybrid model of it. We also have kids coming into the tech lab, more a rotational model of it. And I think currently at our school, teachers are doing all different models of it, but not necessarily the hybrid one anymore, but definitely incorporating tech inside the classroom in small group rotation, as well as still coming to the tech lab. So blended learning is incorporating technology into instruction, integrating it into instruction.
Well, yeah, and you guys lead a very unique blended learning model there with your hybrid, which I thought was very interesting when you guys first described that to me.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pull a Mike Fricano here, and I'm going to say that I think Halikula rocks and is definitely a leader in blended learning. I see the hand motions down at the bottom. I'm pulling a Mike because I'm saying that as versus even other private schools, we're definitely a leader and forefront, runner in blended learning in our state. And that program that we actually implemented as a team, it took a lot of work. It was like building a school within a school, and it was the first of its kind in Hawaii. I know there was Hawaii Tech Academy, but their program is a little bit different than what we did. So I think definitely we're in the forefront of blended learning in the state.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else? Are you guys familiar with any other blended learning models besides the one that you guys had implemented at Halikula?
So there's different types of blended learning. When you do some research on blended learning, you'll see that there's like a flex type. There's also like a lab type. What Rachel is talking about is that what we did at Halikula, we provided kids to come to school on some days and stay at home on some days. So we really looked at how are we going to provide them the education at home through a learning management system, and how are we going to have that quality time in school. I think that there's different models of blended learning, and when we're looking at blended learning, we're looking at it in different ways on how you would reach the students. So you're looking at a flexible space, a flexible time, and a flexible learning environment. I would say it really depends on what your school is comfortable with and where you want to start before you're jumping into a different type of or different scenario of a blended learning environment. I hope that answers the question. There are different types. We could share like a quick video on that, and it's just that because there's different ways to do blended learning, I think that maybe we can focus on how we did blended learning at Halikula and what we're trying to share out. Our model has changed from what Rachel has done, and we're trying to empower more of the teachers to do blended learning in the classroom. That's what I would say, a better way to say it. We're trying to empower more of the teachers to do blended learning in the classroom. So I hope that answers that.
Yeah, we have quite a bit of information being shared in the Q&A. Peggy offered a resource. I guess it's a blending learning wiki. So I tossed that into the show notes for everyone to check out. So we appreciate you sharing that, Peggy. That's been added to our resources. And Jed also shared a great resource from the Khan Academy. Contains a bunch of videos and information about what is blended learning and other information about that subject. So we appreciate you sharing that. And I put that link in the show notes as well, so we appreciate you sharing that, Jed. Thank you. And Brian Smith, he's got a great question, something I was kind of thinking about too. And he asks, how did your stakeholders respond to the idea of your hybrid model? I mean, how did you get buy-in to that? And was there enough support for in the beginning, or did you have to slowly gain support? And can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Okay. We provided a lot of parent meetings.
Yeah.
And we answered as much of the questions as we could as possible. We gave them background on where Halikula has come from, what we've implemented with technology, and where we think we can do this blended learning environment, or how we can implement the blended learning environment. So, well, if we're looking at the components that we did for the blended learning, what we did was we provided a lot of parent resources. We did presentations on blended learning, and we also sat and seeked out help from Hawaii Virtual Learning. And Rachel helped me.
Sorry, I think you were doing a great job with that question. Definitely it started with publicity. It really started as a team effort, because I think we were the first stakeholders in it, almost, in essence, because as a team, we really had to go through, well, what equipment do we want to use? How do we see these things going? Because there's so many questions when you start to do something on that level, like a hybrid model. I mean, in essence, you're creating a brand new program that's never been done, so your parents are going to have concerns. They don't want the kids to be guinea pigs.
Yeah. Well,
it started with public. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm also interested in if you guys can explain where did the decision come from? I know your school is in a unique location in Hawaii, right? And so, can you share a little bit about why you guys decided on a hybrid model and where that idea came from?
Yeah, actually, I think it started with the fact that we had limited space. We were over capacity at our school, as well as Michelle and Megan had been doing stuff. You know, integration of technology had been taking place for a while, and they were kind of wanting to take it to the next level and see what would happen. The principal wrote a grant so that we could get one-to-one for the kids, and just to see what would happen here if we did something a little bit different in order to save space at our school, because we didn't have the space for the amount of kids. Sorry, I got a kid talking to me at the same time. Hold on a second. Hold on. Megan, go ahead from that point, please.
Okay. So basically it started from our principal writing the grant, and Michelle Colte and I did research. We took the Connected and Connect course from Hawaii Virtual Learning. We learned about teaching online, and from there we started to build our research on what types of online courses are out there for basically K-5. We were targeting 4th and 5th grade students to do this blended learning project. And I guess what we did, after doing research and after learning about how to implement the blended learning process for the students, we went ahead and we just went and did it.
What were the parents' reactions when you first presented this idea? I mean, did you have a lot of interest? Were they really intrigued by it? And wanted to jump on board, or was there?
Okay, so we have a very unique population, right? We have 98% military, 99% military dependents.
You guys are on a military base.
We are on a military base, and we have high transient. So transient population. Students come and go all the time. We wanted to provide them an opportunity, provide them an opportunity to have the flexibility of learning in a different environment. Some of our parents actually stay home, right? We have some parents that stay home. And some students, they want to explore other extracurricular activities like gymnastics. So sometimes they're homeschooled, but we want to give them an opportunity to still be part of our school and still be part of that, I guess, opportunity to have that flexible learning. And I think that's one of the things that came out of this blended learning. It was a great opportunity for students. Parents loved it. They loved the students having those
teachers.
I'm sorry.
And the teachers.
They loved that the students were learning online. They loved that the students were having a hands-on opportunity to see what's really happening in our work area today. Students look at us. We are learning online. We are sharing online. And so, we gave the students the opportunity to go ahead and experience those things. And that will only benefit them in the future, right? So we hope.
So when you initially introduced this idea to the parents of your community, was there a lot of interest? Was it pretty easy to get the buy-in from them? I see a head shaking.
You want me to do that one?
Yes,
I
please.
I think a lot of people were interested but hesitant. The first year, the reason the program, I think, in essence, after the grant ran out, the reason it ended is because we didn't ever get enough buy-in. I think it's, a big leap for parents to want to, especially that first year, for them to put their kids in the program. But afterwards, every single kid that was in the program, the parents were very pleased with what was happening because the kids were the ones creating and guiding their learning. It was very different, even the curriculum, like how we had set it up. So I think everyone was pleased in the long run, but unfortunately we just never got the amount of students that we wanted in the class. We wanted a good 20, and we never quite got that. And this was even after several meetings to get people to teach them this is what the program is and publicity kind of thing. We never quite got the amount of people we wanted. But yeah, a lot of people were interested. They just weren't sure if they were ready for it. And I think they weren't really sure if their kids were ready for it. Because to be a student who works from home, it actually takes, it's a lot of work. And even when there was only a little bit of transiency actually. We only had a couple both years who, I think only like a small handful who either moved or ended up not wanting to be in the program anymore because it just wasn't working for their family. So I think that's part of it, is that a lot of people just didn't know if their kids were ready for this program. But overall, the ones we did get, they were very pleased. Like Megan said, they were very pleased, and they said it was, the best learning experience their kids had ever had. I'd like to say that's part of that as the teacher. I think a lot of it was the kids, though. The kids really were amazing students. I was really blessed the last 2 years with the students that I got. Very creative minds. I had an idea. The team had an idea, and we tried it out with them, and they just ran with it. I mean, they were more. The kids are always more amazing even than the parents. The parents sometimes can be the naysayers, but the kids are the ones that are like, yeah, and they love it. So, that's what you gotta love about children. But, there was challenges to it as well, even with the kids that stayed in the program. I mean, it was basically like any classroom. you had the challenges and there were success stories. So
yeah, we'll definitely get into to both of those things in a minute. I just want to jump back to the Q&A really quick. You have a couple more resources being shared. There's a great YouTube video that Jed shared on the basics of blended learning. I tossed that into the show notes as well. It's a very nice introduction to the topic. And Carrie, she wanted clarification on what you mentioned earlier, Megan. The Hawaii virtual learning?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we joined Hawaii Virtual Learning, and they provided us with Connect and Connected, our professional development courses that you can take online. And those courses help you or guide you through the process of what is an online learning and how would you go about teaching online. So with blended learning, we were looking at students being away and students being in school, and using a learning management system to help them get the content and lessons. Now, one of the things that we're talking about is these students are 4th and 5th grade students. So if you ever have taken a course on Blackboard, you understand that creating a course for 4th and 5th grade students takes a little more of research and a little more of creativity, because students may not be able to read and really comprehend what you're asking them to do. And Blackboard gives you kind of a wordy platform, right? So what the teachers did, they put in a lot of Web 2.0 tools to help the students maybe go ahead and read. We started to use Google Apps a little bit more, and provide that feedback when students would turn in assignments instead of just the Word documents being turned in on Word. Although Rachel will admit to you that she created everything in Word the first year, and and then changed over to Google after. But
the first year.
The first year she did everything on Word, and we had like files of Word documents, and she expected the students to turn in Word documents. But you're laughing about that now, because how could we think about that?
I think it changed halfway through the first year. Halfway through the first year, I think I started using Google with them because they were using it, but I was still using Word. Don't tell anybody.
The whole world can hear. But it's okay. So the students and the teachers actually went through a lot of learning challenges and learning experiences together. We learned together. My understanding of the program that we had is putting in the purchase orders, thinking about preparing the equipment that we had, trying to figure out the management on the students, because the equipment went home with the students. So how are we going to do that? We talked about care for the computer, providing that information to the parents, policies, and putting policies in place on what are we expecting from the students to take care of the device. That was my part really in the blended learning. In this blended learning experience, Rachel implemented the lessons as a teacher, and she developed the lessons and adapted the lessons to what the students needed, when they needed, and giving them that individual learning experience. Those are some of the things that I guess we did.
Yeah. So you come at it from the perspective of
a tech coordinator,
IT support. Rachel comes from the perspective of a teacher. So, Lynn, I kind of want to ask you. You don't have a class of students yourself, but you're more of the instructional coach. So how does the blended learning fit in with your position? How do you Did you adapt that model as an instructional coach, or do you provide the support for the teachers? How does that work for you?
Okay, so I initially took a class with Megan and Michelle, and when I took that blended learning class, I actually did a project, and I started off using Weebly. But if I could take a minute, if you don't mind, I'll share my screen to show you what I developed in Google Sites.
Okay.
Okay, so all right, trying it out here.
Yep, we can see it. Cool.
Okay, so basically, I just created this site so that not only would I have the opportunity to meet with teachers face-to-face, but I could also connect with them virtually. So I started this, and if you could see, I have different tabs here at the top. So basically, I have just my contact information there. And if you try to access this later, I don't think you can because I've only shared it with my teachers. But just to give you a quick overview, I do have the calendar of events there for them that they can see everyone that I have scheduled for different meetings. So they can very well go ahead and look. So I uploaded my calendar there so everybody can see who I'm meeting with at what time, what open slots I have available. And in order for them to schedule some time with me, I do have a form for them available, and I also have that here. So they just let me know the time, the day and time that they want me to come, and they just simply have to check off what it is they want to meet about. So really simple. And then I've also created a form in case they want me to come and observe something that's going on in their classroom. I've also have access to the Wednesday meeting schedule, as well as a forum that I've set up with all the teachers that I meet with in grades 3 to 5. But I've also created a separate forum for each grade level so that they as well could also discuss any topics that they want to. I'm not going to, well, let me see. So these are just a couple of things that the teachers and I have put up. So I have a couple of teachers here that they had questions that they wanted to ask others about, so they went ahead and put that on. And I just put some announcements there about conferencing with them and collaborating, just to give you a quick idea. Under the Standards and Resource tab, I have
Are you still there, Lynn? You're still there? We lost your sound. We can't hear you. I don't know if she froze. She might have froze up there. Oh, no.
Maybe
Okay.
she'll pop back in a minute.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
Well, yeah. Rachel, yeah, you wanna?
Yeah, I mean, I almost think we kind of got off on a tangent on the blended learning model that we had done, but I think the reason we did that, and we're talking about this in this conversation, is because that's the history of where we're coming from as a team and as a school. And what's really interesting, Mike, is as this has progressed, and since we did that 2 years of the blended learning model that we did, as a team, we really got to see, you know, the issues that can come up and all the troubleshooting that goes into something like that. As well as the kids' responses to things that happen. And like Megan said, we learned a lot alongside the kids. But now what's really interesting is it's spreading throughout the school because I actually had a lot of hesitancy before I took that job. And like Megan was saying, I learned a lot. And it's really opened my eyes to the world of possibilities out there that tech can offer to a teacher. To save time, to collaborate with students, to give feedback, and even to pull in those shy kids that, you know, maybe don't want to participate in the classroom but would be more willing to participate online, as well as to differentiate all. I mean, it leads to everything. And so I think that's what's really amazing is as now you're seeing Linnell's got this site. It's just all the teachers are really starting to become more open to the possibilities, and I think that's because they were seeing those successes. And I'm not sure, Linnell, are you back in, or?
Are you back, Linnell? Is she there?
I think she joined in again, so we're just...
Can you hear us?
I love the site that she created, and it gives the teachers the opportunity to decide when they can meet with her face to face, and it also gives them the opportunity to discuss online, asynchronous and giving that both asynchronous and synchronous opportunity. And as an instructional coach, for her to look at pick some of the standards that you need focus on, or I just think that what she's created is really good, and it's been helpful with the teachers that she's been working with. So now you've taken a look at, Rachel has explained how she has done it as a teacher in that way that we had started with, and now we're trying to push and expand throughout our school. And obviously, the students are not staying home half the week and coming to school half the week. But you can see it now. It's in our instructional coaches that they're using the technology, and they're trying to build. Okay, Linnell is back on, right? Maybe she can go ahead and continue.
Oh my God! Up to what point did you get?
We're just about to talk about your standards page.
Okay. Let me try again. Because at one point I was like, am I talking to myself?
Sometimes that happens.
Okay, so I had just shared about the math resources, and I have one for language arts, math, science, and social studies. And all I did for the teachers was just to create links for them so that they can go to the different sites and see what it is that they, want to see, hopefully to catch some lessons there. I did let teachers know that if they have different links that they want me to add on, I could very well go ahead and add that on.
Can we see your site?
I'm sorry?
Can you share again?
Can you screen share again? Hopefully it doesn't crash on you again. Yeah, there. Cool.
Okay, talking to myself again. Okay, so just quick links for teachers to go to, just so that they don't have to go and search for, what was I looking for, just some there. And then I told them that they could go ahead and let me know what else they want me to add. So I do have different resources available for them. I've also created links to different areas where they can go ahead and create different things with their students. They want to give it a try. I know some teachers have used Padlet. Some teachers have used Flipgrid. I know Michelle shared a lot of this during library time as well.
Cool.
So there's also professionalism, just sharing some strategy of the week, things that I've seen in the classroom, and then here's where I've used the Padlet with them. And I really love that I can upload this to my site, and the teachers don't have to go, to another tab to open it up. They can just go ahead and click the Padlet right here and add their ideas. So they've talked about different classroom management tips that they've tried. Class Dojo seems to be a hit. Rhonda also shared this document from Edutopia about different ways to check for understanding. So it's really simple, quick. Some of these teachers actually went on a couple of hours ago to add some things on. The nice thing that I like about Flipgrid is, again, I could also add this on to my site, no problems whatsoever. And this is a quick way. I might not see teachers for the day, but I can definitely find out what ideas they have as far as professional development. So some of the teachers just went on and gave their quick 10-second blurb about what it is that they need help with. So just some fun things that I wanted to let them try so that they can use it later on in their classroom.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I totally love it.
Yeah. So it's just one, one way out of many, or actually you have several ways on that website that students, I mean, teachers can participate and share and locate information. It's really great.
I think I learned a lot from Michelle and Megan, and even in passing by with Rachel and talking story, and just trying to give them the experience themselves so that they can see that, you know, it's the little things that they can do with their students now to incorporate tech into their classrooms. So.
Yeah, cool. Peggy just chimed in on what you were saying, and she said that she loves the way how your teachers have input in what they would like help with in the instruction or coaching. So she said that's a great forum, I guess, because you got the Padlet in there, you got the Google group, kind of like the forum space where they can ask the questions, yeah, and then the forums you've created where they can request help. So lots of great options that you've given your teachers.
I like it because I think it gives them an opportunity to have a voice, because sometimes in the meetings they have other things that they need to talk about, and sometimes they're shy or they don't want to share because they're not sure how the other people are going to respond. So it gives them the opportunity to kind of share their ideas without feeling scared to share.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing there's just some people out there in the world that just aren't comfortable speaking openly, you know, in person, face to face, but they're very open and have a lot to say when they're online, and so giving them the opportunities a great way for them to speak out. It's awesome. I didn't want to ignore it, but Jed's got a couple good questions, but I wanted to jump back to one he asked earlier. He's asking, I guess this one could be for Rachel, but what tools or assessments do you use to measure your students' achievements in your particular learning blended learning model? So how did you assess your students?
Oh my goodness, that could be a long answer. Hi, Jed. Okay, so the model that I was doing was definitely project-based. So the students were creating projects. Each quarter had a theme, and so pretty much all the learning was based around that theme and some big ideals and understanding. So definitely each project they created that was standards-based had a rubric that either they helped me create, so it could be a student-created rubric, or a rubric that I created, you know, depending on time-wise or whatnot. So sometimes it'd be myself assessing them, and sometimes them self-assessing themselves. But what was really cool is, and this is going off a tangent, but what was really cool is at the end of the quarter they got to create a project of their choosing, kind of like a Google 20% time, but it ended up taking probably more than 20% time. But like per se, the quarter one was the theme for the whole quarter was exploration. And so at the end of the quarter, they became explorers, and they could explore a topic of their choosing, and all they had to do was create a project, and it could be using any tech tool they wanted. So I mean, it was so open that almost the first time they were faced with that, they didn't really know what to do. It was overwhelming. So we had to break it down, and we kind of redesigned a KWL to a more 21st century version that we walked them through on a Google Doc, and you know, that's a whole different topic. But when I read his question, Mike, I was kind of seeing it as how do you assess your blended learning model. Now that's a little bit harder to do, and we definitely had a grant manager who looked at assessment, you know, all the assessment pieces and stuff like that, and kind of saw how were these kids performing, you know, in accordance with the other kids. And maybe Megan can talk a little bit more because I'm being mom.
You're being summoned.
Okay, she's being mommed. Okay, so what Rachel said, we had a grant manager, and with the grant manager there were specific things that we or not we, but Rachel and Rebecca Linford had to submit. And some of those things, student assessments, they were measured the same way our general students were measured. So if they had to take an HSA, they took the HSA. They took all of the regular assessments, and I guess what was the difference? It was how the questions that were asked. How did the students in the blended learning compare to the students in the regular education class? If that's what the question is.
Yeah.
And so our grant manager looked at the data and reported the data for that. We looked at assessments that were given on students that were in the regular classroom and in the blended learning classroom. We also looked at pre and post assessments on the students and how they felt towards using technology for the blended learning students. And if you were a teacher and you came into a class and you were to teach one of the blended learning students, I think you could see that there was a big difference in the confidence level that they had using the equipment that they used. And I think that's one of the things that I observed with the students when working with Rachel's students and working with regular classroom students. You can see that they're confident, they're ready to touch, they're ready to problem solve, and that was one of the biggest experiences that I found with the students. Confidence and competent level of using technology to share their learning and create, and that is exciting, or it's always exciting to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. Jed has a question for Lynn. He says, as an instructional coach in a blended learning school, how do you, as the instructional coach, how do you motivate the teachers to use and implement blended learning with their students? How are you involved in that support?
Actually, I think a lot of the times, as I'm conferencing with teachers, I'm taking notes in a Google Doc, and they go on later on and they do their reflection or give an update about what's going on. I think that lends naturally to what Megan, Rachel, and Michelle do. We have Tech Tip Tuesdays, and so teachers can go and learn about different ways to use technology with their students. So I think just having them practice by just accessing and us collaborating online, I think that just lends itself easily, and it works together synonymously with what Megan, Michelle, and Rachel do at Tech Tip Tuesdays. So I think the motivation just comes from the teacher themselves, and nothing. I'm not sure that I go out and say, hey, try this, or hey, try that. I think it's them when they attend these after-school sessions that they feel like, wow, I can do this. You know, it's not too bad. And when we conference together, then we just kind of talk a little bit about, well, how can I use this in relation to what we're studying? And then we just kind of take a look at their units that they're working on and see how it best fits.
Yeah, well, I think as you mentioned, like the reflection piece is extremely important. I mean, you gotta take time to reflect on your practice and think about the tools that you're using and the way that you're using it, and if it's not working, find something else. So that's important. I also think the way that you've set up your site and all the different tools that you're using as an instructional coach sets a great example for the teachers and how they could use it in their classrooms with their students. So just by using it yourself and inviting them to participate, sets a great example for them. And then having the Tech Tip Tuesdays and creating those opportunities where they have a place to go and learn and share and ask questions is also a huge benefit to any teacher in a blended learning school.
And I think, I'm sorry, go ahead, Megan.
Then I want you to go. I want you to share, okay? And then maybe we can go ahead and mention what Mrs. Iwase had said about the students and parents in the blended learning classrooms. Took a survey as well. Can you? So go ahead and share, Lynn.
I was just gonna say that teachers always feel like, oh wow, this is something new, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to use it. So just giving them that opportunity to play themselves, I think that really helps.
Yeah.
You try it out. They need that time to explore and discover for themselves. So
no, exactly.
I think
that's how you treat students when you introduce them to a new tool or a new technology. You got to give them the time to play with it. Otherwise, they're going to play with it as you're trying to teach it, right? So
exactly.
You got to do the same thing with teachers as well. Yeah. So Jan She mentioned in the Q&A, she said students and parents in the BL classrooms also took a survey every quarter, which asked questions about the culture of the classroom and what they liked and you know, what could be improved. So, are you guys able to elaborate on those surveys at all, or what results came out of that?
I think
I don't have straight numbers off the top of my head. I'd have to pull it up on Google. But yeah, it was all favorable pretty much. I actually don't even think we ever had a bad review. That's how awesome I was, and Rebecca Linford. I'm gonna throw that out there. That's how awesome we both were. So we didn't have any unfavorable reviews. The parents really did feel like, I mean, one of the comments that came out of it was they just felt like, one of their concerns going in was, kids not getting enough socialization, that type thing, not feeling like they had enough face-to-face time with other students and with the teacher. And then one of the comments that came out later of it was that the parents said that they had never felt a closer community than when they were in that class. And I think it's because it was a 24/7 kind of connected class. And so I think that they were seeing that even though it wasn't face-to-face, the students were interacting. They were just interacting in a different way and, at a greater rate. I do have to say, the blended learning program, the grant manager, I know that the reading level and all that, it did improve, if I'm not wrong here, it did improve more than the other classes. But I do have to say that part of, there's several variables there, so you can't say one way or another that it was because they were in a blended learning classroom. I mean, the classrooms it's a smaller size class. They had air conditioner. I mean, there's all kinds of variables. They had me as their teacher. And just to let you know that all these students coming in were, yeah, I know, lots of pats on the back here. I mean, I did an awesome job. We should have wrote this up in a book. I mean, bestseller. Okay, but also because the students coming into this program, they were all average to above average, upon entering the program. So I mean, when you look at assessment pieces and how well a model did, I think even to look at how well a group of students in a school is doing, there's so many variables. I would say it's very hard to pinpoint and say because the students used technology for this, that therefore made a better learning experience. While I think that that's true, and while I think it led to more opportunity for differentiation and communication, and definitely the feedback from the teacher, I hesitate to say that it's the superior way of doing things because, again, there's so many variables involved when you're looking at assessment pieces. But definitely in the surveys, everyone was quite satisfied with the program. And then now, what I'm seeing now, like I said, is that it's spread at our school. We have Linnell, and you can see obviously she's modeling blended learning herself with her site. It's an amazing site she's created. And then we have Megan and myself, who, while we're tech coordinators, we're still invested in also being instructional coaches. And you have Michelle, who is just outstanding, and she's also invested in that. And I really think it comes down to a team of people at your school. It really takes, a lot of help and support when we're talking about motivating teachers or supporting them in starting blended learning. When you have these type cheerleaders on your team, when you have a team of people who work together well to support other teachers and to support themselves and have that attitude that we just want to continue learning, I think that's the biggest attitude that you can actually spread to others to motivate them, is that we're in this having fun. And it's about having fun, and it's about learning, exploring new territory, and doing something we haven't done before. And if we continue to push ourselves, then we will continue to see progress. And I think that's getting kind of at Jed's question about motivation. And Linnell's right. You can't motivate anyone, but what you can do is take the few the excited few, and you can maybe start making that more contagious.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Shane kind of hits on it too, and what he commented on in the Q&A. And Megan kind of mentioned it earlier when he talked about how you see the confidence building and how students are engaged. Those things you can't, you don't measure by assessment. You can't grade them on that. And you may compare the grades and the assessments from blended learning compared to regular students, and whether you see an increase or not, that I think it says more when you see kids that are more engaged, that are more confident. And Shane says in the Q&A, he said he can't help but feel like the blended learning model may somehow be linked to a show we did earlier this month about empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
We talked more about empowering schools, but I think with the blended learning model, you're really empowering students.
Yes.
You can't measure. You can observe it, but you can't measure it.
Yes.
That's so much more important than the tests that we give them and the assessments we use to grade them, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's about giving them choice, and I think that program definitely did that, and that's what we're trying to continue to encourage at our school, is putting kids in the driver's seat. It's not so much that the sage on the stage, as they put it. It's not so much the teacher, but it's looking at what do these kids want, to do, and can we make that happen? How can we connect that to the community and larger problems in the world? And it's about getting them to be responsible for their own learning. And Michelle was the one that really has opened my eyes to some of this type of thinking, because I did not always used to think this way, but getting kids to ask the questions. Because when kids ask the questions, they're going to be more involved in their learning, and it is empowering. It's harder, and at first they might resist that, because when someone hands you a packet of papers or hands you a book and says, this is where you research, and these are the questions you're researching, and this is the project you're making, and it's got to be colored, and it's got to be outlined, and it's got to look like this on the poster, then you're not going to use any thinking about your project. You're just going to do it exactly the way the teacher told you to do it.
Exactly.
Versus saying, this is an open project. Hey, kid, what do you think you should do? What do you think looks like a good grade? That's the type thinking we want to encourage in our students, and that's the type of blended learning you really want to see. You don't want to see it as just a flipped model where the kids are getting their video information and they're filling out an electronic worksheet. You want to see kids thinking, well, then you got to get them invested in the actual process of creating the curriculum too. And I think that's where my own thinking and my own teaching improved when I went through the first year of it. And I think a lot of things shifted in my own opinions when I went to ISTE for the first time. And like I said, just working on a team collaboratively and not being that teacher who, even though I used to be great as well, because I've always been a pretty decent teacher in my opinion. But yeah, thanks, Mike. But I think where it kind of shifted for me is when I was in my own classroom, I was doing my thing. And then once I got on this team, it became more of a collaborative thing where people were questioning me and I was questioning myself. And like Linnell's doing, where she's meeting with the teachers, I think that really, if people are willing to let it can open your eyes to improving yourself as well. So.
Rachel is awesome. I'll give her that. She's awesome. Yeah. She's an awesome teacher.
She starts to talk fast like that.
Right, exactly.
How important it is for her, right?
Listen, I have to talk fast because I have a kid in here jump roping. They were making a cake and blending it. There's all kinds of things going on at this house this early. That's why 8 o'clock is like no kids, on the mix. But right now it's like kids are everywhere in this house and dogs.
So we got a couple minutes left in our show, and I wanted to hit on the last question. I think we hit the other questions in our discussion, but our last question is, if a teacher wants to get started with blended learning, integrating technology, what steps would any of you recommend to a teacher that wants to get started with that? Anybody?
No.
How did you get started?
Oh, I say by all means go for it. I think Jan has done a really good job as far as encouraging her teachers to get in there and just try something. No matter how small it is, just go ahead and try. We have a whole range of teachers, some that are just willing to just dive right in, and then there's others, they're, well, how do I get to that site? There's just a whole range of teachers, and their abilities just stretch. So just getting them to take that first step to access a site, or to even just try something really small. Like Jan has used the Padlet with us before, and everybody contributed to that. So that was a really good practice and a way for the teachers to get involved. She also has a Google form for teachers to use when they go on walkthroughs to different classrooms. So, simple things like that. And just, we're going through that whole WASC accreditation thing, and everybody has to access those docs online. So we have all of that available in Google Docs. So everybody gets a chance to do something online at one time or another.
Right. It's a push.
Yeah.
It's a push from admin. You have to have your administration support you. And Johnny Wase has a vision. She wants to try things, and she brings it to the team, and we run. We run with it. So, you know, we're very fortunate. We are very fortunate that she backs us enough to give us the opportunity to learn and try. So you need to have administration backing you and supporting you, especially if you're going to try a blended learning model. And I think Shane asked how many teachers were applying blended, or how many teachers were or are applying blended learning. And he asked you, Len, when you model this as a coach, do you try to incorporate it into something like a staff meeting or a school initiative?
Well, I think Jan definitely encourages that all the time. I don't think it's something, it's not just pockets of, you know, try it here, try it there. I think when I must say that these Tech Tip Tuesdays that we have, that there's like a whole bunch of teachers that come now. In the beginning, it used to just be, you know, the same ones that want to try something, but I've seen a whole bunch of different teachers coming out now, and that's really awesome, because they want to try and use it in their class. So we have teachers in kindergarten using it with their students, using the iPads, you know, telling stories on that, doing artwork. Then we have teachers in 5th grade that are using it consistently in their classrooms. They're getting on the computer every day. So you'll see it, I think, in almost every classroom. I want to say 98%.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think from you know, Megan's position as a tech coordinator, or you know, technology integration specialist, or you know, just some kind of curriculum coach or support, you know, someone who supports faculty. It's you got to be patient with it too. You know, you're not going to grab everyone, right? And as you mentioned, there's just a couple of teachers coming to your Tech Tip Tuesdays, but over time, the amount of teachers grew as interest grew, and you know, they pick up on those things. They may not pick up right away, but as they see their colleagues trying things and seeing how successful you know, these ideas are in other classrooms, they'll eventually catch on, right? And you can't, you're not going to grab everyone's attention. It's impossible, right? But if you have patience, right? If you build it, they will come.
That's right.
All right, so we're just about out of time. We had a great conversation. We had a lot of activity in the Q&A. We definitely appreciate our live audience tonight. Peggy, Jed, Shane, Jan was in there a little while, Carrie, and Brian had to leave a little early, but we appreciate you guys joining us live. And if you have any other resources, feel free to toss them in the show notes. Everybody has shared some kind of resource in the Q&A. It's in the show notes already, so feel free to check that out. Watch those videos, check out all those articles and information about blended learning if you're interested. And Connected Educator officially ends in a week, but being a Connected Educator never ends itself, so please continue to stay connected and be connected, and we appreciate you guys joining us this month for Connected Educator Month. And Lynn, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing and showing us your website, and encouraging others out there to do what you do and try what you try. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
But that'll be it for tonight's episode of EdTech Mixed Plate, and we'll be back soon. You guys have a great night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.